What if the key to solving loneliness and mental health issues isn't just therapy, but a groundbreaking 3-pillar approach? In this eye-opening episode, we explore Ignite Transform's innovative approach to mental health. Join us as we discuss shocking local loneliness statistics, a holistic method succeeding where traditional treatments fail, real stories of lives transformed through community support. Whether you're battling your own demons or passionate about community wellness, this episode is your gateway to mind-blowing insights into mental health care. Tune in now to the Donate Podcast's new episode, Mind, Body, Spirit, the revolutionary 3-step approach to deal with loneliness and mental health, with your host, Steve Roseman.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Donate Podcast. We appreciate your time. I want to make some quick introductions here because we have a great podcast today with Ignite Transform. If you're not familiar with them, they're a great organization here in the greater Indianapolis area. And, they have an amazing mission that's close to my heart. So we are now kicking off a new podcast series, and we've asked them to be the front runner and join us. I don't know if that was fully accepted instantly, but, it'll be a good time. So Mary Beth, welcome. Melanie, welcome. We appreciate you joining us today. So both on screen and audio for the podcast. So for those who we got to remember, not everybody can see us. So if we're doing gestures or giving examples, we got to remember people are listening here. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Be here.
All right. So I want to jump into really, and let me take a step back. So the partnership here, right? Mary Beth, retired optometrist and storyteller by profession or hobby. As I was reading it, it sounded more like you just love sharing and telling stories. Is that right?
Yeah, I really see myself as a story editor because people have a story to tell, but their story's not over. And sometimes they live in that story that's not been edited yet. And if we can hop in there and change something that makes their story better and the ending better, that's what we like to do.
I like it. One thing that I instantly think about when you explain it that way, because right when I read it, it's like storyteller, like a book storyteller, right? But when you talk about it from that standpoint of life, right? I remember watching, I don't think it was a course or anything like that. It was a video with Tony Robbins. And he was talking with somebody who was battling, alcoholism. And she had referenced that, I'm like 21 days sober. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, every single time you tell yourself or you reference how many days you're sober, your story is still you're an alcoholic. Stop doing that and just talk about the future. And so I instantly think about that. We're rewriting your story, even though you come from one place, that doesn't mean that's the end. So no, I like that. And then Melanie, licensed clinical social worker. The next one you got to explain. Love for certified intervenist. Yeah, you got to say. I can't even say it.
Interventionist.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm going to blame my bad handwriting on that one. So
it's a mouthful. It's Love First Certified Clinical Interventionist. So I think it's been about 11 years ago I was trained and got that certification. So as an interventionist, I was already previously a licensed clinical social worker. And so I do a lot of therapy. I've worked in treatment centers. And an interventionist works with families to help them develop a plan and a very thorough, concrete plan to approach their loved one, to help their addicted loved one get help for their addiction. So we're approaching them in a very loving way, non-shaming, but in a structured conversation to help them as a group do it differently than maybe they've done before when they've asked them to get help. Because sometimes the nature of somebody in active addictions at times is that there's some resistance to change, and the whole family is involved in that process, and there's enabling going on and a lot of codependency and things like that. And so I come in and help the family address those things for themselves, but also approach their loved one and offer them help. Because the other thing about treatment is it's hard to navigate. Our treatment field is hard to navigate. If somebody is ready for help, well, what do I do? Who do I call? Where do I go? If I Google search it, there's so many options. And how do I know what's a good option? And so I also help pair them with the best option for their loved one, what's going to fit their needs the best, because every program does some things really well. And sometimes it's just, and others maybe not so well, or they don't treat for example, trauma is something that's very common with addiction. And so some programs don't really address trauma very well. And that's okay for some people and not for others. So, I come in and help them have, and it's pretty effective because the way we approach them is different than previously they've done. Usually it can devolve into an argument or it can get really like deflected from the point. But in an intervention, we're really structured, very loving. It's a group of people who care about them and are impacted by their addiction. So that's
I love the family aspect of that, right? Yeah. I mean, I can just give the easy example of, and we've dealt with this, right? And I grew up in a household with a father who had alcohol addiction issues. And it's like the naivety, right? The uneducated aspect of really knowing what that is. The first reaction of everybody is like, why don't you just stop?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, don't you think that person tried to stop at one point?
Right. If they could, they would have.
Right. Or it's as simple as they just can't do it on their own.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of somebody yelling at them, it's encouraging.
Yeah. And
I really like that aspect.
Yeah. It is. It's really, the whole family is impacted. That's why we call it a family disease. But the fact is that in our regular society, like layman's knowledge about addiction is usually pretty inaccurate.
Yeah.
And it is not very helpful. Like the approach that you would think you'd use is really not what you would go with. And so having a professional there to help coach them through it is very coaching and consultation is what that process is, even though it is very therapeutic for the family. It's not technically therapy. But yeah, I always tell people, when you call me for an intervention, I know that they're calling me because they want to get their loved one help and like fix that problem, with quotes. But what is actually going to happen is I'm going to help the family members work on themselves so that they can approach the person with love and care. And that person is free to do their own work. Because the family members also need to do work on themselves. And sometimes they don't know that going in, that's exactly what's going to have to happen. But it ends up being very healing for all of them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I think that's a great segment or segue into Ignite Transform. Everything I know, it is about that support structure, right? So Mary Beth, if you wouldn't mind just giving our listeners just I guess an overview of what your program really looks like.
Yes, excuse me. Ignite Transform is really a program that was created out of my story, because I have many of the things that we look at in Ignite Transform occurred in my life, and so Melanie referenced trauma. There's big T trauma and little T trauma. I grew up in, kind of like you, Steve, a household of dysfunction. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad was good, but he worked a lot. And so I grew up in a lot of dysfunction, and developed my own issue with drinking as I went along. And so I drank to get drunk from the first time I ever did it, and continued that throughout my youth. And I looked great on the outside. I grew up in that world where we all pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and we excel and we look good. I always laugh that, we never spoke about my mom's drinking, and we never spoke about my drinking. I just did it. And so I went off to college and did well. I got into a graduate program in Chicago, did well. And in fact, I was graduating when my life was falling apart. So everything looked great, but I was empty and hurting on the inside. And so went through life trying to figure it out, but had somebody who set down some boundaries with me. I remember the first time I went to a counselor, the counselor said to me, Mary Beth, I went in and said, hey, my mom's an alcoholic. I want to know how I can help her. And the counselor said to me, well, how's her drinking affected you? And I was like, that is not what I came to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
So through some work and looking at my own drinking, I got sober when I was 26, and have been sober since then. And so what I realized as I went through life was that there's a lot of things that need work done, and sometimes they take a community, and sometimes they take loved ones, and sometimes they take financial resources, and most of the time they take all three of those. And
Yep.
so I was fortunate that I did have some of those in my own life. So I had resources in order to get help. And so I could pay a counselor. I had a bariatric procedure 10 years ago. I could do that because I was very unhealthy and overweight. And also I always had at least some community around me. And so from that, I realized that even though I had resources, there's many in our community who don't have those resources. And how do we help them? And so
Yeah.
Ignite Transform was really formed in order to help the mental well-being of our community, the physical well-being of our community, and the spiritual well-being of our community. So it is a program that is a mental health program that provides counseling to people who can't afford it, so that we can help them lead better lives, be better parents, really make an impact in our community. And that's how Melanie and I got to know each other. She was one of the first in the door to help us and help the people we serve.
I really like that you just mentioned parents. As we were talking, before we started recording here, my personal event with our foundation focuses on mental health as well. And I really try to hammer that point in, right? Is if we're not okay as parents, or I guess as parents, right? And we're not okay, how can we possibly be there 100% for our kids? Because I don't believe that's possible, right? So we can't be the best parent. We can't be, the best we can to teach and train them. That sounded horrible, like it's a job, but to help them become the best human they can be. So I love that you reference that, because I share that same belief.
Yeah, I just spoke to the Kiwanis Club yesterday, and their purpose and passion is to help kids. That's who they serve. And as I was speaking to them, I said, I believe that too, but I also believe Ignite Transform serves kids, because if we're working with the moms of these kiddos, that's the very best thing that we can do, is to help the parent be a better parent, the mom be a better mom, and that changes a kid's life more than pretty much anything you can do. Is to help.
100%. So what kind of program? Oh, go ahead, Melanie.
I was just going to say, it just creates generational change. Like if you work on yourself, it's something I say to the moms or parents that I work with all the time, because often people have a view of sacrificing themselves, right? Well, I can't do therapy because my child needs therapy or whatever. Maybe they need to pick. And I'm like, man, your number one job as a mom is to take care of your child's mom.
Yeah. But it's hard,
That's
right?
your number one job. It is hard.
As a parent, you sacrifice so much for them. But I think there's a lot of, I don't know, like somebody asked me the other day, it's like, what's your hobby? I'm like, working and taking care of my kids, playing football because I'm coaching my son. And I realized, man, I don't even have a hobby anymore. At 43, there's nothing that I would say, hey, I need to take 2 hours of my time once a month or whatever, and I'm going to go do this because it's a lot of fun. I don't have that. If I have 2 hours, it's like, no, let me lay on the couch for a second, type of thing. And I pray that that's not my hobby, laying on the couch watching TV.
Well, rest and relaxation and leisure time is important. It's okay to have time for that.
I would agree. So
I think also, though, the thing that we do is our kids are watching us all the time. And so when we're taking care of ourselves, our kids see that it's okay to take care of ourselves. And I think they actually appreciate that. And I think it sets them up to not be afraid to ask for help, because they say, oh, okay, it's okay that my mom needs help. It's okay that my dad needs help. It's okay for me to ask for help.
No, I agree. So somebody after our event, he came up, and it's something I've been trying to practice in our home, is helping my kids understand I'm going to mess up, and it's okay if they do. But to your point too, physically right now, I'm starting to work out again. because my son and daughter are athletes and they keep looking at me. And they've made comments like, Dad, why don't you have a six pack? I'm like, for one, only like 2% of the population have six packs. Thank you very much. And then I'm going to make up a completely different or made up statistic. Most of them are in competition phase. They don't rock that all day. But my point is, you're right. They're watching us. And Melanie, I know we had talked about your career and the relationship. From the conversation I had with Mary Beth, I mean, you've been with the organization from day one. Is that right?
Not maybe day one, but very close to the beginning. Yeah. I'm one of I think there might've been one other counselor prior to me that was there. And then Mary Beth and I got hooked up and then I joined. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of mental health organizations you could have joined. Why Ignite?
Well, Ignite we have a partnership, right? So I have my private practice. And then as a part of my private practice, I partner with Ignite.
Okay.
Really, when we met, I remember when we met and they were telling me about the program and everything, it just sounds really wonderful. The things that they do are very in line with kind of my mission or the way I like to help, right? I want people to get effective help. I love working with women. And so that really fit. And a lot of people who come to Ignite tend to have maybe a history of trauma, which is right in my wheelhouse, and maybe a history of addiction, or their family members have history of addiction. And so the fact that Ignite, and I know we haven't talked about this necessarily yet, but the fact that Ignite uses multiple facets of like a human experience to help, like we hit it from different angles. My angle's the mental health side. And so that's just one of the parts of Ignite. But I love that because it makes it more effective. We're treating a whole human and helping them recover from whatever they've been through or move forward in their life from multiple angles. And it tends to be more effective, quicker. And I'm all about that. Everybody wants fast relief, right? And if we can actually provide that in a real way, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great time to kind of maybe go through the three pillars of Ignite.
Yeah, I love that.
Transform. Yeah. So Ignite Transform is a mental health nonprofit, but we utilize counseling, physical wellness, and the love of God to transform lives. And so our mission of those three pillars is that we know that people get better when they're doing all three things, when they're taking care of their mind, their body, and their spirit. We can't unwind any one of those. We are whole beings that encompass those three areas. And so we provide to the clients in Ignite Transform a year-long program, up to 52 professional counseling sessions. We provide a mental health program through that, but we also do a physical wellness program and then a faith walk to help them develop their faith and their beliefs. And so two things important that does is, one, as Melanie said, I think it does make things go quicker in how they recover. It also really helps with sustainability, so that when they're done with counseling, if they become done, because some people continue on, but to me, counseling is a lifelong thing, just like going to the doctor. It's a lifelong thing. It's part of my physical checkup. It's part of me checking in with myself and saying, hey, how does my mind, how is it? Do I need to kind of maybe get a little tune up and go see someone again? I don't think we're just finished beings. And I used to hear an organization that would say, I am transformed, as if there's a period at the end of the sentence. And we're all about the fact that we are always transforming. And so we need to work on our mental health, our physical health, and our spiritual health. And so that's a little bit of why the Ignite Center for Community was created, is to just continue that on, to be able to have a place to walk into that anyone can come to and work on those three parts of their being.
I agree. I mean, because we have different phases of our life. Like you had mentioned, going into college and you were still in that realm, right? Then you graduated. Now you're in a second phase, your careers, things like that. Have kids if you decide to have a family. My mom, we're getting ready to start a group, and I'll make that introduction because it seems like there's a lot of correlation with even your organization as well. She recently retired, and she's like, I don't know. And she's blessed. She's got a lot of women around her, like old high school and grade school friends. I think it's amazing. They're trying to figure out where their worth is. And what are they supposed to do now? Well, that's a different phase. Well, the way that we would help somebody mentally, in a program like yours is different than a teenager, right? And so I agree. I think it's a journey. That's like somebody getting really fit and then saying, I'm good, and then thinking that they're going to be fit the rest of their life. It's like, if it was only that simple.
Absolutely.
So with, I understand the pillars, but would you be able to give a couple examples of what that really looks like if somebody came through the program? I know you had talked about the 15 sessions, but I know recently you launched a program. I don't know if it's happy hour or dinner or something that you're doing on Thursdays. Is that right?
Yeah. So we have a community dinner every Thursday night. And there was 3 populations of people that we really wanted the Ignite Center for Community to be involved with. And so that was those who, just needed a place to be in community. And that's all of us. COVID, I think, taught us anything. It's that isolation doesn't work for us. And being in community is a much better place to get healthy and be happy. And so I sat on a panel recently, a few years ago, I guess, but it was the Wellness Coalition. And they sent out a survey to all of Noblesville, and they were looking at a lot of different questions about how Noblesville was. And one of the questions really broke my heart, to be honest. And it was a question about loneliness. And there was 15% of our population here in Hamilton County, our community, that said they were lonely, and that they, on a typical month, would only maybe have one interaction that was meaningful per month. And, I think sometimes communities can look and go, well, look, 85% of our people are happy and they don't feel lonely. But I'm the one that looks at the other 15% and I say, gosh, we have a community where 15% of the people feel lonely. And so we, with the Ignite Center, one of our things we want to reach out to is to bring people into community. So every Thursday night we have a spaghetti dinner. It's not about food insecurity. It's not about homelessness. It's about just bringing people out. We sit them down. They don't wait in a line. We serve them on china because we want them to be pampered, seen, and loved while they're here in the building. And so we do that, and people love to come out and just sit. They bring people with them, and they can just have a meal that they don't have to worry about paying for at the end of the day, and that they can just be served and seen.
I like it. I mean, it goes back to just being amongst other people that you can build those relationships with. And I think 15%'s low. The amount of people that I have talked to, obviously we're well out of the COVID era, but it's still an easy reference, right, of what really happened. And so, no, I like that. So I guess for our listeners, because thank you for sharing, what you're doing, for the community. It's much needed. And I can't wait till our world really gets rid of that mental health stigma by just the term itself, right? Where everybody thinks it's severe. And the one thing that I'm sure you ladies have seen, it's the build up, right? It's the, I'm stressed, I'm tired. That turns into anxiety. Anxiety turns into depression. Depression turns into potential suicide, right? Or addiction. But nobody really talks about it until it gets to the severe piece. And that's like going to the gym after you're already 450 pounds. It's like, but you knew back then, you just didn't treat it, right? So for those who are listening, how can they help? How can the everyday, whether it's volunteering, obviously every nonprofit needs money. I know you put on events, things of that nature, but how can somebody, because there's 2 parts, right? One is how can they help your organization? Let's go with that. What's your need right now?
Yeah, I mean, our need is really that people come and join us. We have classes on the schedule. We have community dinners. We have mental health talks. We're here as a provider of services, but we need people to know about us, spread the word, and come see what we're all about. When you come and take a class, you're helping somebody. You may be helping yourself, but you're also helping somebody else. And so we have 13 physical wellness classes on the schedule a week, and we love to have those full. of people who want to come in and just move their bodies. The other thing that I think I've really started looking at is people who want to be monthly donors. You don't have to make this your only place to give, but if you can be a monthly donor, that really helps us really widen who we get to serve. And so monthly donors are essential. And we also have volunteer opportunities. So you can come in and serve at our community dinner, which is great. But we're also expanding into different areas where we need people who can do that. And so we have Bible studies that take place here. So if you're one who has a heart to teach a Bible study, we'd love to host your Bible study here. And then we open that up to the whole community so anyone can come in and participate in that. We need to create more partnerships with mental health counselors. When we provide mental health counseling to a community of people, we need a lot of people who are those professionals to come alongside us and partner with us. And so, just as Melanie provides services to our clients, we have about 8 or 9 other counselors that are doing that. In fact, we just expanded, so we're probably up to about 12, but even that's not enough. We need more mental health counselors who want to partner with us. And then just business partners, people who want to say, you know what, I support wellness in our community, and I want to walk alongside the work Ignite is doing. And so business partnerships are crucial, and we can do that in different ways. And one way that I like to say is that not only can you give to us, but we can give back to your team. And so we put together programming for small businesses or other nonprofits that support the people that work there. And so, every business has a team. And every team needs supported. And so if you need something in the realm of physical wellness or mental health, we can put together lunch and learns or private classes, or there's just lots of opportunities in those partnerships. I'll give you an example. Recently, Melanie came in and did a mental health talk for us for the mayor's team. And so Mayor Jensen here in Noblesville brought his team out for a day, and we did a lunch and learn. We had a yoga class where we really looked at stretching and breathing. And then Melanie, why don't you kind of talk about the part that you did and how that day went?
Yeah, it was really nice. They started with the yoga part, and of course the yoga instructor and I kind of compared notes of what we were looking for, like what we were looking to just provide. Most of it was around stress management, something really easy. We weren't asking them to do a strenuous workout on their lunch break.
Yoga is kind of stressful for some people. I'm just letting you know.
This was a very light, very easy stretching yoga, but it was great. They came up after yoga, they came up to eat. And that was when I just had a discussion talk with them. And they were like, man, I feel great. It really makes a difference. And they were probably doing yoga for 25 minutes, like maybe half an hour. We didn't keep, we wanted it to be brief so that they could access it. And then I spoke about stress and what that does to our body and why the long-term stress that we kind of inflict upon ourselves without addressing kind of what you said earlier, Steve, we'll let things go forever until we just are absolutely collapsing. Before we'll address it, but what that long-term stress does to our body physically and how that creates a lot of the illnesses that we have. And then I taught them some grounding techniques and some tools that they could just use anytime, anywhere, like simple things. It's always like the simple things because they work the best. First of all, you don't need a 10-point bullet plan to manage your stress every single day. Because quite frankly, if I gave you that plan, you wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use it. I need something simple. I need something accessible in the moment when I need to decompress or to get grounded again. And so that's what I focused on.
No, I like that. I want to go back to one quick thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was just thinking, the reason that the mayor came, and the reason that most of the mayors in our Hamilton County community, they have mental health as one of the top priorities for their administration. And the reason is because everyone has mental health. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Dr. Caroline Leaf was talking about that we've kind of made it this entity where we think that depression and anxiety are only disease entities, but they're just part of our day-to-day living. And
Yes.
so, if we approach it as that, it's just something that we all deal with at some level. And so Ignite Transform and the Ignite Center for Community, we're all here to walk with you depending on how deep that journey needs to be. And so the Ignite Community Center for Community is people who can just come in and do a little stress relief workout, or they want to come in and just hear a topic on mental health. Or they want to participate. I call it the a la carte menu. You come in and you take what you need and you leave the rest. And then those who are really in the midst of issues with addiction or trauma or mental health, they can come in for a year-long program that walks them through that journey for their mental health. And so kind of as deep as you need to go, we're here. And kind of if you just need to just kind of work it out and move, or just learn a topic, or participate in a growth group or a support group, or all the things that we offer, or just be in community, all those things is what Ignite is meant to do.
No, I love it. I do want to touch on one thing before you let people know how they can find you. I want to go back to partnering as a company or an individual in the monthly giving, right? I don't think most people realize nonprofits, even if you do $5, $10, $20 a month, that helps create sustainability and planning for a nonprofit. Because if those who are listening right now, if you had 100 people doing that, 200 people doing that, the amount of revenue that can bring in to serve is massive. So we don't have to focus so much on events all the time. And yes, that's great for awareness, but most people don't realize how hard those are to put on. And I don't want to say it's a gamble, but if you have one bad event, it affects your mission for the entire year. This way it allows you to plan more and put your focus on the mission, not just on fundraising all the time. So I just want to state that it's not always $100 a month or $200 a month. It doesn't need to be that big number. It can be an extra $5, like you had mentioned, as I've seen in my career in the nonprofit world. Givers give. So I think the last statistic I read, it was most individuals who support the nonprofit world give to anywhere from 8 to 10 different nonprofits throughout the year. So let's make Ignite Transform one of those organizations. So can you share real quick before we head out here how our listeners can find you?
Yeah, we're real easy to find. So if you just go to ignitetransform.org, all the information is there on how to be a monthly giver. And you're absolutely right, Steve. I mean, if we had people who just came along and, 100 people, 200 people who just gave $10, that's a game changer for us. And the reason that's a game changer is we spend a lot of our time developing fundraising. But what we really want to do is spend a lot of our time developing how we pour into people. And when we can step back just a little bit from fundraising, then we can really pour into the people that we serve in even greater contact. And so, becoming a monthly donor to us is just one way that you can make a difference in your community. This is a community that everybody can step into and say, you know what, I'm going to support mental health in my community and be a monthly giver. And so coming onto our website and signing up to be a monthly giver really allows us to make an impact here in our community in an extraordinary way.
And I'd like to just add, if I can, that something like that for Ignite Transform in particular, I think a lot of nonprofits are like this, but maybe some aren't. You don't know where your money's going, right? If you're giving, you don't know if it's going to the bottom line. You don't know what it is. But for this particular program, I mean, we help people in our county. Like, it is your neighbors that are accessing this program. And so it's like such a great way to pour into your own community and not have it like intangible, like I'm giving, but I don't know how that's helping. And I mean, just to break it down a little bit, like people who do donate, like it literally pays for somebody's therapy sessions, right? And that's one of the things I love about this program is that the women in the program who are in the year-long program, they access all of these services for absolutely free. Yeah. And they end up giving back as well with their time and volunteering and things that they do, which is so amazing, but they access it for free. And that's something that is always a huge barrier for people, especially women. Women are caregivers of others. Like women tend to take care of everybody else before themselves. And so money is going to go toward that, right? Like they don't always pour into themselves. And this is a way that it tangibly pays for those sessions. Like I get to see these clients for 52 sessions in a year. Like that's amazing. I know that I can do some serious work with somebody in a year, and I know that it's taken care of for them, and they know it's taken care of. So they don't have to like worry about next week's session or next month. How am I going to pay for therapy? Right.
Yeah.
Like
an additional stress on top of what they're already going through. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
So.
Well, Mary Beth, Melanie, thank you so much for sharing your mission. And once again, ignitetransform.org. Please go check them out. And once again, the reality is it's not only about donating and supporting in that way. If you need help and want to get part of learn more about the program, be a part of the program, once again, ignitetransform.org. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for tuning in to our eye-opening discussion with Mary Beth Weirla and Melanie Short from Ignite Transform. We hope this episode has inspired you to think differently about mental health and community support. Today's conversation highlighted 3 key points. First, we explored the importance of a holistic approach to mental health, where addressing the mind, body, and spirit is essential for true recovery. Second, we discussed the vital role of the family in addiction recovery, with Melanie explaining how structured, loving interventions can help families support their loved ones through addiction. Lastly, we emphasized the power of community. Ignite Transform brings people together through events like their community dinners, providing a safe space to combat loneliness and build connections. If you're struggling with loneliness or mental health issues, remember, you're not alone. There are holistic approaches and communities ready to support you. For our listeners in the Indianapolis area, check out ignitetransform.org to learn more about their programs and community dinners. If you found value in today's conversation, please share this episode with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on mental health and community wellness. Until next time, take care of your mind, body, and spirit. Together, we can revolutionize mental health support, one community at a time.